вечно шугается и пугается, из-за чего находится часто в стрессовом состоянии. Постоянный страх запускает расщепление жиров прямо в молочных железах. Из-за свободных жирных кислот молоко приобретает резкий животный привкус, чем-то похож на козий сыр. А если сильно пугать ее перед взятием пробы, молоко может начать слегка горчить. Фехтовать, а это очень сильная кардионагрузка, требующая выносливости. Как и Шингуан, оно придаст молочку небольшую кислинку, а еще сделает более сбалансированным по вкусу. Вывод у нас следующий. Молоко напоминает очень густые, но бархатные сливки. На первом плане у нас нежная овощная сладость, которая переходит в чистую минеральную свежесть из-за ее диеты. И едва заметную йогуртовую кислинку от частых кардионагрузок, вместе с небольшим горьковатым привкусом, завершающую эту вкусовую композицию. Диалинь. Наконец-то человек, следовательно, и вкус будет менее экзотическим и приближенным к реальности. Она является якобы лучшим сотрудником техподдержки, постоянно отвечая на вызовы клиентов, а работа ей приходится тяжело, да и заебала она, короче, в общем, это самое. А параллельно она с этим еще и работает судьей в Крампусе. Времени на сон нету, а чтобы оставаться хоть в какой-то бодрости, потребление кофеина у него, скорее всего, регулярное, что уберет природную мягкость молочка и добавит отчетливую, едкую, горьковатую ноту в послевкусие. Помимо тяжелой работы, ее еще и постоянно заебывают голоса мертвых. И я верю, что это тот еще стресняк. Да сука, хоть кто-нибудь верит, живет на лоу-кортизоле на зачиле. В общем, уровень кортизола наверняка зашкаливает, что нарушает водно-солевой баланс в организме, ее выработка сахара падает, что придаст молоку выраженный солоноватый вкус. По работе ей нужно вечно наведываться в каверны. Постоянные битвы, некоторые из которых даже возможно наносят ей какие-либо ранения, периодически могут вызвать анемию, что повышает уровень железа в жидкостях организма, что может передать тяжелый металлический привкус. В итоге у нас выходит жидкое водянистое солоноватое молочко с отчетливой горчинкой от кофеина и с резким металлическим послевкусием. Бля, но зато если ее подоить, когда она увеличит свою грудь через ее кольца, молока будет гораздо больше. Знаете, единственное молочко, которое мы можем разобрать у мужиков, у Панельху железный желудок. Впрочем, он и готовит охуенно. А по его движению он явно поддерживает себя в мышечном тонусе, что ускоряет выведение продуктов распада, что снижает естественную белковую горечь семени. Для интенсивных тренировок ему нужно много протеина. В ее пузе явно протеина навалом. Много мяса увеличивает концентрацию аминокислот в семенной жидкости, блять, а они могут придавать ей легкий солоноватый оттенок. Но и зелень он употреблять не забывает. Зелень делает вкус более мягким и чистым. Он категорически против фастфуда. Исключение рафинированных сахаров, консервантов, канцерогенов, прочего говна, что вам расскажут в ТикТоке, исключает появление резкого, химического, едкого или кислого привкуса. Специи он тоже использует при приготовлении пищи достаточно, которая даст небольшую пряную ноту в его молочке. Он также большой любитель чая, он пьет много воды, из-за чего концентрация солей разбавляется в семенной жидкости делая ее менее соленой и водянистой. Его семя сперма имело бы умеренный, мягкий и чистый вкус. В нем бы отсутствовала резкая токсичная горечь или избыточная кислота, а само семя сперма было бы довольно водянистое по консистенции. Санночка. Ну, так как она этот самый ебеночек, ее обозревать мы не будем. Она не тирен, поэтому молочко у нас будет в базе человеческим. Ее постоянная тревожность, да, блять, у нас будут персонажи не под вечным стрессом сегодня. Короче, при таком стрессе уровень кортизола и адреналина будет, безусловно, повышенным. И, как мы выяснили еще в прошлый раз, будет слегка солоноватым. Диета у нее, предположу, специфическая, и наверняка она очень любит сладенькое. Что, кстати, помогает ей поддерживать активность мозга, пока она пытается что-то придумать для своей песни, для своей группы. Они временно повышают общий уровень глюкозы, что придаст молочку приторно-сладкий вкус. Спит она явно довольно хуево и нестабильно, нарушая биоритмы организма. Мелатонин имеет свойство проникать в грудное молоко, а при деструктивном сне баланс жиров и белков в течение суток распределяется хаотично. Еще нужно учитывать то, что она еще и танцует в придачу, и после репетиции, если взять, так скажем, пробу, оно придаст ему кислинки. Если сложить все факторы, то ее молочко будет явно нестабильным. В целом это зависит от момента, когда вы решите ее подоить. После, например, работы над песнями либо в покое, оно будет приторно-сладким, а после репетиции смещался в более солоноватый. В общем, как затаймите, так оно и будет. Юзуха. А вот и подружка Алисы. В базе у нас опять человеческое молочко. По сюжету за ее веселым характером скрывается драматическое прошлое. Она винила себя в смерти отца Алисы, бла-бла-бла. Да, опять стресс, опять слегка солоноватый привкус. Идем дальше. Про ее диету сложно сказать, но если судить из ее стиля, можно приплести то, что она очень часто жрет сладкое. Что сделала было молочко, молочко приторно-сладким. Но немаловажное, она жертва интенсивных экспериментов в прошлом, и хоть они давно кончились, но все же в ее организме могли остаться какие-то следы препаратов и прочего, что может придать молоку едва уловимый сладкий медикаментозный привкус. В итоге ее молочко будет очень сладким, с послевкусием солоновато-медикаментозного оттенка, из-за чего ее молочко будет напоминать по вкусу соленую карамель. Господи, крыса жена! Ну, и крысы тиреном она является. В природе молоко грызунов отличается от человеческого. Оно содержит меньше сахара, но гигантское количество жира и белка, что сделало бы его более густым, концентрированным и маслянистым, напоминая скорее сливки. Из ее заданий и досье мы знаем, что она ночная сова и питается часто фастфудом. Диета, богатая солью и усилителями вкуса, повышает уровень электролитов в крови, из-за чего и смещает баланс в молоке. Молоко приобретет едва солоноватый оттенок, а растительные жиры и специи, которые могут проникнуть в молочко, создадут чуть пряное послевкусие. Стресс. Ну, она типа в криминале работает. Да короче, да ебал я это Ньюэриду. Хватит, ну я хочу сладенькое молочко без горчинки. В общем, она работает под прикрытием, рискуя жизнью. Опять стресс, опять слегка солоноватый привкус. Вердикт? Грудное молочко Джем было густым, плотным, со сливочной текстурой, с выраженным солоноватым послевкусием. Напоминаю то, что у меня есть Twitch, ТГ, подписывайтесь, ставьте лайк. А вот и старуха. Не факт, что ты вообще получишь с нее хоть капельку молока, ну да ладно. Наконец-то персонаж на лоу-кортизоле. Блять, вследствие этого молочко вернет свою базовую сладость, в отличие от предыдущих персонажей. Не сомневаюсь, что она и алкашку регулярно вместе со своими кентами из Каледона ебашит. Это придаст молочку легкий спиртовой оттенок. Проблема в том, что алкашка блокирует выделение молочка, а вот его объем увеличивает, из-за чего оно дольше застаивается, становясь еще более концентрированным и плотным. Так как она дальнобойщик, то и сухую пищу она регулярно употребляет, вяленое мясо там и прочее, что ведет к дефициту воды в тканях, что усилит слоноватость. Оттенок на фоне высокой плотности, а концентрация жиров возрастает. Вывод: текстура молока будет густая и плотная. Она будет сладким солоноватым привкусом, с легким спиртовым оттенком. Впрочем, не думаю, что вы что-то из нее выдавите. Билли. Машинное масло. Ну, блять, он просто не способен ничего выработать. Ну, там анлаки. Курен, давайте сразу к делу. По поводу диеты сказать сложно. Если она не употребляет стряпню Рины, то, по идее, все должно быть хорошо. Как у них обстоит с готовкой, в принципе, непонятно. Так что давайте опустим эту тему. Стресс, пугливость, кортизол, адреналин, солоноватый привкус. Идем дальше. Вот тут уже поинтересней. По ее лору, в детстве она перенесла критическую болезнь и перенесла сложнейшую операцию, о чем, скорее всего, говорят ее шрамы от теле, и в целом у нее такой франкенштейнский мотив из очевидного. Такая операция могла бы затронуть ее метаболизм, например, повлиять на жировой состав ее организма, что послужило к низкой жирности ее молочка. Гипотетически оно было сладким, нежирным и нежным, с резким, солоноватым, металлическим привкусом. Некомата. Начнем с того, что она кошка-тиран. В молоке кошек очень мало лактозы, но очень много белка и жира, из-за чего оно практически бы не имело сладости, имело бы насыщенный, плотный, пресно-жирный вкус, ближе к концентрированному бульону. Она очень любит скумбрию, ну и в целом рыбу. Ну типа кошка, все дела, а скумбрия так-то ебать жирная, прямо как твоя мама, из-за чего молоко было бы еще более жирным и плотным, а сам вкус был бы с небольшим ядистым оттенком. Она ведет активный образ жизни и часто тусует в кавернах по работе. Обильная выработка кортизола и адреналина у млекопитающих может сделать молоко и слегка горьковатым, а активные физические нагрузки, которые вырабатывают молочную кислоту, придадут вкусный привкус. Вердикт: очень жирное, плотное, абсолютно несладкое молоко с выраженным рыбным соленым привкусом, с легкой кислинкой. На любителя. Вот с этой коровки выйдет неплохое количество молочка. Начнем с диеты. Кухня объездной — это барбекю, жареное мясо, острая пища и фастфуд. Такая высокобелковая и пряная пища сделает вкус молочка более солоноватым и насыщенным, с легким тройным оттенком. Объездная — регион засушливый, жаркий, воды мало, да и потеешь ты дохуя на жире. При нехватке пресной воды в организме повышается концентрация солей, из-за чего молочко приобретает выраженный солоноватый привкус. Ну а физические нагрузки придали бы отчетливую кислинку по причинам, которые вы уже слышали у прошлых агентов. Живет она довольно активной, драйвовой жизнью и на вспышках эмоций. Вследствие адреналин, кортизол, слегка солоноватый привкус опять. В итоге ее молоко было бы на вкус плотным, пронзительно соленым, заметной кислинки и пряным послевкусием. А вы знали, что пулькара лучше всего делать пить? Она кошка Тирен, и по тем же причинам, что у Накаманты, оно бы не имело сладости, имело бы насыщенный, плотный, пресно-жирный вкус. Это мы уже проходили. Вроде бы по поводу рыбы она ничего не говорила, а вот сочное мяско и барбекю она по любасу любит. И в ее рационе преобладают белки и жиры, что, возможно, придаст молочку копченый оттенок, а пряности вообще могут его сделать более солоноватым. В общем, ее молочко будет густым, жирным, несладким, соленоватым, мясным вкусом. Бля, да не, в пизду. Всем спасибо за просмотр. А нет, подождите, еще один финальный вопрос. С чьим молочком будет всего лучше капучино? Конечно же, с молочком паны. Ответ, думаю, очевиден. Алиса. Само молоко, как мы выяснили по текстуре, плотные сливки с большим количеством белка, из-за чего молочко не осядет, пока ты допиваешь свое кофе. А само ее молочко имеет свежий вкус, в отличие, блять, от других. А едва заметная кислинка придаст пикантный привкус. Ну, тут диета див. Вот такой у нас прайм контент от ЗЗЗ. Буду ли я продолжать подобное творить, но это уже зависит от вас. Короче, всем спасибо за просмотр, идите нахуй.
Weakling. Scatter! Need help! You better not get my trust dirty. Watch out! Whoa, close call! Come on! Don't be nervous! Don't underestimate me. Who dares get between me and Lord Phaethon? My blade is already sheathed. Hey! Let's have some fun! Victory, the only option!
Привет, это Эрвин. Мне очень давно хотелось сделать видео про судьбу замороженных российских активов. Тех самых сладких подарков, о разделе которых постоянно говорят на оппозиционных ток-шоу. Мне эта мысль пришла в голову еще год назад, когда до меня стали долетать крупицы инфы от инсайдеров. Но тогда я подумала, что умные люди и без мамаши-витубера как-то разберутся. Это была большая ошибка. К сожалению, разбавить тему нейрослопом в этот раз не выйдет, потому что его на эту тему нет. Но обсудить ее все равно надо, потому что она имеет к нам прямое отношение. Речь буквально о наших деньгах. Не каких-то абстрактно наших, как озеро Байкал, а вот прямо буквально наших. Официально находящихся в собственности у множества наших соотечественников. И, возможно, у вас лично тоже. Это будет длинный ролик и довольно злой, к сожалению. Так что запаситесь чайком и печеньками. А если...
This is bullshit.
My lords, today we are going to talk about how to build the ultimate defensive bastion.
That's nice.
A set of defenses so capable, even the United Nations of Earth could hold them. We will create the immovable object, and we will do it in a key star system. Terminal egress. My goal today is, via a Voltum battle simulation, create an environment incredibly hostile. as hostile as galactic conditions will allow, and we shall use it to test our defences. Hordes of alien filth will crash upon our walls, and we will send them back into the cold depths of space. My lords, there will be several companions to this, and we shall begin with our Empire selection. Of course, we could do this with the mighty Commonwealth of Man. Humanity will easily be able to accomplish this feat. However, to make the test fairer, we will use cold logical machines, an empire we have designed ourselves, known as the Caretakers of Avalon. These machines, floating cubes, are a Gestalt consciousness, rogue servitors to be specific, and they've dedicated themselves to the protection of their starfish charge, the Zenak. The Caretakers operate as a guardian matrix, making them ideally suited for the task that we have for them. Furthermore, they will find themselves with a mysterious portal already within their home system, and they will have a starlit citadel already built and constructed. They will be the perfect empire to protect the galaxy from any oncoming threat. Our initial mission is twofold. We must survive the invasion from the mysterious portal, and we must find and locate an L-gate in order to find our new home, Terminal Egress. Terminal Egress, for the uninitiated, is the central system and only access point into the region of space known as the L-Cluster. This space was once occupied by the Desanu Consternants, a wonderful empire who mastered the creation of nanite technology. You can find their full and detailed history in a report I've done elsewhere, but sadly we would find that they perished to their nanite creators. Nevertheless, they left us with a beautiful set of star systems and potentially the best choke point in the entire galaxy. Our objective first was to find an L-gate. Fortunately, we are aware that they only appear in systems with black holes. They need to draw on the singularity's gravity in order to power them. Thus, this was the first place we looked, and in the year 2203, we found an L-gate, not too far away from our home system. It of course took several years, decades even, to research the technology to be able to understand and unlock these L-gates, but we soon did. And in the meantime, we were also extremely fortunate to discover the remains of the precursor, the Zeroni, which will be perfect for our goals. Will our luck continue to hold when we enter the L-Cluster? It did. We entered the L-Cluster to find the empty of all life, another perfect result for us. Now the real work can begin. We will create the largest defensive force the galaxy
My
has
blade
ever
is already
seen. None will stand before us. We will jump
swear on
ahead
my
several
blade.
years now, and we are ready to begin our project. We have constructed several ring worlds throughout the cluster with which to house our population, but indeed the fleeing galactic population, should they choose to be pampered by our machines. But what you're interested in is defensive bastions. So let's start with the starbase. This is of course going to be a citadel equipped with 6 ancient ramparts. The ancient ramparts are a special defensive module that you can build on starbases instead of gun, missile or hangar bays. The reason to pick these is that not only do they buff overall starbase effectiveness, increasing starbase hull points and armor by 15% each, therefore 6 increases hull and armor of the starbase by 90%, they also have an effect to increase defensive platforms hull and damage by 5% apiece, giving us a total of 30%. But its really key modifier comes in the form of +2 defensive platforms, because more defensive platforms means more guns, and we need a lot of guns. Now let's look at traditions. Fortification will be a key tradition here for several reasons. Firstly, defensive zeal adds 33% starbase hull and damage, as well as 33% defensive platform hull and damage. Glorious. Other effects will increase the time to upgrade, reduce
Okay.
whenever you need me. Let's go. Whenever you need me. I'm in charge now. A direct hit. Smile, smile. I see edge. Yep. Whoa, this is fine. Leave this to me. I'm right here. Drifting clouds. Huh, shit. Perceive. Shit, shit. That pushes. I'll be fine. Yeah.
Boost upkeep, increase fire rate when inside friendly borders, and it will increase the amount of defense platforms we can have per installation. This so far will put our starbase hull at a whopping increase of 123%, but of course we can go even higher. To display weakness is to invite attack. The price of invading our space must be so high, as few as possible are prepared to meet it. Enter Eternal Vigilance, the Ascension perk. A wonderful, gloriously powerful choice. This increases our starbase hull and damage by another 25%, as well as our defense platform damage by 25%, and the upkeep is reduced by 50%. If that's not enough, we also get a platform cap increase by a flat +5 and a 20% home system fire rate. And furthermore, extremely importantly, we get to build another Deep Space Citadel, but we'll come on to those later. This really is a very powerful Ascension perk. But we need to increase our defensive platform capacity even more, and there's a number of ways that we can do this. At base, an outpost has 3. Each upgrade gives us another +3, meaning by the time we get to a citadel, we can get a base of 15. The fortification tradition increases our defensive platforms by 50%. If we add the defense grid supercomputer module, we get 8 more. The reloading bay, which is specific to our Civic, adds another 2, and we have 6 ancient ramparts that I mentioned earlier. That gives us another 12. Eternal Vigilance gives us 5 more, and the end result is a cap of 63 platforms. Bloody wonderful. But let's look at designs. Now there are multiple different designs available. There are many good choices that we can use here to design impenetrable platforms. Hangar bays, for example, a clear and obvious choice. Hangars have fantastic range, Strikecraft can penetrate shields and make short work of armor. They are vulnerable to point defense, but with the number that we could produce, that will largely not matter. However, an old giant returns to the battlefield: neutron launchers. Neutron launchers have the potential to be the most powerful weapon in the entire galaxy, perhaps with the exception of their psionic counterpart. Nevertheless, the principle is the same. Neutron launchers have a range of 45 to 120. They do reduced damage to shields, but increase damage to armor and hull. On top of this, they have a multiplicative damage with ship size, meaning the larger the ship's size, the more damage they do. They have 3 downsides. Firstly, their minimum range of 45 means that should any enemy ships manage to get inside of their firing arc, they'll be in big trouble. Secondly, they only have an accuracy of 75%, meaning you need to offset this with accuracy components such as the Enigmatic Decoder, which increases chance to hit by 5 and tracking by 5. 2 of these will bring you up to 85%, still not ideal, but better than 75. The third downside is that they use a tremendous amount of power. Far more power than your regular components, meaning that you're not really able to use shields on your defensive platforms. However, offense is of course the best defense, so maybe this is a minor issue. If however you ascend psionically, which of course I have, and you should, psionics is fantastic and offers tremendous power, you will be able to unlock Zro launchers, the psionic version of neutron launchers. Zro launchers are even better. They offer shield and armor penetration on top of the regular features of neutrons, and they do about 2.5 times increased damage. They also, quite oddly, use less power, maybe because they're psionic, but anyway, that's an extra win. Zro launchers will be the basis for our defense, and I'll use the design shown on screen now. With the Sapien Combat Computer, these guns will have a 95% chance to hit, 35 flat tracking, though this will be further increased from our Origins Skywatchers. They'll bump it up to 16, and I believe we can get it as high as +30, which is tremendously powerful. It's not really the focus of this report, but very briefly, tracking counters evasion. So for example, if a Corvette has 90% evasion, the 51 tracking our Zro launchers will have reduced that down to 39%, meaning we have a 95% chance to hit, and then the Corvette has a 39% chance of evading that hit. So we have our Citadel, with 63 platforms pumping out 172,000 fleet power. But of course that's not going to be enough for what we're going to face. We need some deep space citadels. Now, regular empires, after they unlock the deep space citadel technology, can build 2 deep space citadels per system, which is a perfectly reasonable cap, as these are brutally powerful. However, those who take the Eternal Vigilance Ascension perk, as we did earlier, get to build 1 more per system, taking you up to 3, and because we have the Starlit Citadel Origin, well, we get to build another, bringing it up to a frankly broken 4 per system. So let's get them built. Due to the platforms that we're using, with a range limiter, I've gone for a diamond pattern around our central starbase, but you can really do more or less whatever you like with them, although I would stress to keep them relatively far away from the entry point. Range is really key here.
The line is
Your
drawn.
Deep Space Citadels will come with 3 variants, Tier 1, 2 and 3, with 3 being the strongest. Let's design a Tier 3 together. We have 9 point defense slots. I'd recommend that you split these between flak and point defense. Flak is better at killing strikecraft, and point defense is better at killing missiles and torpedoes. You'll have 6 large weapon slots. Because we're psionic, I'm going to put psionic lightning on them. It has 100% accuracy, solid tracking, and has a chance to terrify enemy ships, and it synergizes really well with focused arc emitters, which will go in my X slot. You also get 9 hangar bays, so put your best strikecraft available in this spot. For defenses, we have so much power and we don't need the accuracy components, so I've gone with a mix of armor and shield and hardening on both, although it's unlikely that we'll need it. Now once built, we'll need to add some additional modules upon them. These options mostly pick themselves. Of course, we will take the defensive grid supercomputer as it gives us more platforms. Target uplink computer increases the weapons range by 50, and it stacks with the other stations as well. Reloading bay gives us an extra 2 more platforms and increases ship fire rate by 25%. And finally, we'll throw on the Archaeotech Ancient Shield Overcharger. This will give us some shield hit points and add more hardening on starbases and platforms. What's more, we can add 45 more platforms onto each of these deep space citadels. Times 4 and plus the ones we have already on our citadel, this gives us a total of 243 platforms or 972 Zro launchers armed and ready to demolish any Xeno that enters the system. Let's build up these platforms, and I highly recommend an auto clicker. This will save your fingers. We really do need a bulk order button for this. With that complete, we have a very generous 1 million fleet power in the system. With some change, I know, and I stress as well, 0 repeatable technologies at this point. Can we go higher? Of course we can. First, we need a planet in the terminal egress system. Now sadly, because in this simulation we got grey, which by all means I love grey, but it means that you don't get any planets. If you roll Desanu or the Grey Tempest, you'll get the technology to terraform nanite worlds into livable worlds. Since this is merely a simulation, we'll just use some Shroud magic and terraform just one of the nanite worlds into a Gaia world. Why do we need the planet? Well, because we can get more platforms by putting a ring on it. And I know if you were to have got the Grey Tempest, I believe you can build upwards of 3 planets in this system. In any case, we'll stick with just the one, and this incidentally is when we're going to abandon our homeworld and move all of our population into the L cluster. The Gaia in terminal egress will act as a fortress planet, and the ring worlds will be there for the galaxy's population to take refuge upon when the crisis comes. Back to the ring though. Fully kitted out level 4 ring with reloading bays and a defense grid supercomputer gives us another 29 platforms to add to our arsenal. Fantastic. Now that we've moved our entire species into the L cluster, there is a few more things to do. We should build a sentry array, because we must bear witness to what is to come. A Dyson sphere will enable our people to live without the need to concern themselves with energy, and a second ring world should be built to hold more of the galaxy's population. But finally, and most importantly, a strategic coordination center. At maximum rank, this will add another 12 defensive platforms to each of our installations. In total, that gives us 63 platforms for each deep space citadel, equaling 252, 81 from the starbase, and another 47 from the planet's ring, giving us a total of 380 platforms, or 1520 Zro launchers. Now my lords, let's watch the years tick by, and I know we could take this number further if we wanted to. I am very aware that there is a specialist vassal type, the Bulwark. The Bulwark provides additional defensive platforms which increases per level, but ultimately I believe our current setup is going to be enough, and I've got an extra trick up my sleeve if we need any additional damage. We need to test the defenses we built, And since it's a while before the crisis will appear, and we don't have any repeatables at this point anyway, perhaps insulting the Fallen Empire will be a good thing to do. And luckily for us, there are two, so we can insult them both. Let's call them the slack-jawed knuckle-dragging sons of Xenos that they are, and see if we can bait their fleets onto our glorious bastion. Indeed, that worked a treat. A couple of insults to entice the Fallen Empire into a war, and you can see how quickly they get deleted. We need the crisis to come now, so I'm going to fast forward until the crisis has appeared. Well, my lords, you rejoin us in 2302, and I note by this point I've managed to acquire a psionic aura, the aura of desire no less. This gives us a number of marvellous additional modifiers, such as enemy ship hull and armour reductions, as well as increases to my own ship's hull and armour. We need some bigger fish to fight. I want to actually test my defences after all, so I've spawned in the Unbidden on a 25x setting. At a casual 24 million fleet strength, hopefully this will be able to test our defences. Amusingly, the fact that they have access to the Starlit Citadel portal network means that they are spreading across the galaxy remarkably quickly. Within several more years the Aberrant would come as well, all the while we sit waiting for them to attempt to break our bastions. It was 2311 when the first wave of Unbidden would crash against our guns. A casual 3 million fleet power, before several more waves would crash into us as well. Sadly, we did lose a citadel, but we managed to hold the line. Clearly, we needed some more firepower, and I'll repeat, at this point, we have 0 repeatables, so I think we should give ourselves some. Bumping us up to 10 feels quite reasonable, as I suspect that this will give us the firepower we need, though in reality if you are facing a 25x all crisis, it's very feasible you'd have closer to 50 when the time came. I think 10 is very reasonable. In any case, it seems watching them crash against our defences, 10 was more than enough to prevent anything from hurting us. So we needed an ultimate test of strength. Well, a Class 4 Behemoth perhaps, the strongest creature in the galaxy, and this one weighs in at approximately 113.8 million fleet power. Let's see what happens. Instant deletion. It seems that the size really hurts the Behemoth.
What up? Will here with the Baseball Bat Bros. And today, folks, we're going to find out what is the most effective way for a hitter to cheat in the MLB. We have 5 different options. Our first one, as you can see, is pine tar on the barrel, probably the most iconic cheating method of all time. We have a corked bat. We have the flat bat that I sawed the barrel off. We have the Ultra Cup that goes 3 inches down, so this thing's literally a drop 5. And lastly, the Mega Barrel, 2.75 inches of diameter, bigger than the MLB allows. Let's find out what the most viable option is. So before we get going, I just want to introduce you to my creations for this test. The first bat is the George Brett bat.
Now they're going to measure it across home plate.
They might be going to call George Brett out.
Well, he's out.
Yes, sir.
Brett is out. Look at this.
The barrel is completely covered in pine tar. Here's my before and after photos. And our next bat was inspired by the MLB rulebook, which states that a wood bat has to be perfectly round. It has to be a cylinder. So we sawed the barrel off of a bat right here. The flat bat. And we now have a cricket bat, baseball bat hybrid, and it's even perfectly aligned with the axe handle here. So maybe this is just an automatic base hit machine. We'll find out. And the corked bat needs no introduction. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's poured down the box, but there's a board in the middle of that.
And I think this is a sleeper. So this is our drop 5 Ultra Cup, if you can see that right there.
Bro, that's a cup holder.
And the MLB rule states that this can only go down like 1.5 inches, I think. So that is much farther. And my personal pick of what I think will win MLB states that the largest barrel diameter you can have on a bat is 2.61 inches, and this thing is literally the width of the billet. So almost 3 inches thick on the barrel there. Made this one myself today. But to see if these cheater bats even work, we're gonna find a baseline with the standard wood bat. Some people would even consider this cheating. We have a torpedo bat Lindor from Marucci. Pieced, 34. Yeah. All right, crisp. Okay, 97 first hack. Shut up, train. I'm trying to film. All right, this feels nice. Not perfect yet. 99 there. All right, first one of the day. Yes. All right, 99, 407. Still not very fast. Come on. Go, 105. All right, that's hit really hard. All right, our baseline is at about 99 to 103 miles an hour. Let's go to our first cheater bat. Is a full bat of pine tar a viable way to cheat? Oh God, I got pine tar on the lens, dude. Let's find out. Okay, let's get a bunt here. This is it's gonna get the baseballs all frickin' gunky, dude. All right, toss me that ball. Tell me if this feels sticky to you, to your bare hands.
Nope.
So the bunt didn't do nothing. First swing. Let's see if it sticks to the bat. Nope, it is a rocket launcher. All right, that was 100. Yeah, that does nothing for good.
Певно, клювати не туди.
Stories say that a camera can steal a person's soul.
Where'd you want to go? I'm down for anything. There you are. So glad to see you. I know this pretty little spot nearby. Come on, let's go.
Hmm.
You don't want to be in the picture? I don't mind linking arms for a selfie. So, where'd you want?
Это support dating mechanics thing.
Or bad. I hit a 105? Alright, apparently it's better. I mean, okay, that's at 104. I mean, like that's where I'm hitting it. I don't know, it's not doing nothing. And this, bro, oh God. Oh, no! In case you were wondering if it's sticky, I just got all the turf from the entire field on my bat. Well, I guess let's hit it off. $105. I guess this bat's just better, but it's...
Or is the pine tar making it?
The pine tar is not... There's no way the pine tar is doing anything. I suppose I haven't really backspun one. They're all low. No. Okay, this works. Okay, well, putting pine tar on your bat definitely doesn't hurt the performance. It might actually help. There's no frickin' way. We'll revisit this at the end. The best two bats will face off in the championship. That was 104 for 417. With all the frickin' turf pellets on it. We now move on to the sawed-off bat right here. All right, now with the axe handle. Bro, it's like 25 ounces. Can the flat barrel hit a ball 105 or harder? Or can it turn me into just Tony Gwynn? This was a terrible idea. All right, let's go. This is gonna hurt my hands so bad. Ow! Oh, I gotta lock in. I'm gonna take one brave swing. Dude, I don't even want to hit the hard balls. Not with this bat. Yes! There's a sweet spot, thank God. All right, that was 80. Yes! All right, we're back. Give me a hard ball, dude. That was 90, but let's check on our surface. Looks good, boys. Looks clean. Sending it. Oh! Oh my God! Sending it. Oh my God! Oh, that kind of worked. 95, 362. Woo! Come on! Dude, I can hit a homer with this, I think. Come on. I cannot believe I just did that. 96, 379. I gotta give it one good swing for exit velo. Because it's just scary to go all the way through. It's also like 10 ounces. Did you see that ball? I rolled over and it just... It's an auto line drive machine. Get out. All right, questionable juice, pretty good contact, hurts my hands more than lightning itself. I can safely say I would not recommend sawing off a side of the barrel to hit with the flat bat. That was kind of miserable. Okay, the corked bat we're gonna save for last, but I have my hopes set on the fat bat, and this piece of wood was really light, so this is only a drop to 31.3, but this has like more barrel than a combat, so let's see. I did make this like 3 hours ago, so I hope it's ready. Oh, it's kind of heavy, bro. All right, and it's not quite as loud as some of the other ones. 103 there. 100, bro, I'm gonna be so mad if the pine tar bat wins. Yeah, it's denting bad. I don't know if you can see that seam indentation right there, but it's like kind of caving in. Let's keep hitting it there. Maybe it kind of hardens up. Hey, there's our first homer. Barely. 100, 393. Dude, this whole part of the barrel's like going flat. Ow! Okay. There's 106, but it's a freaking grounder. Hammered. Woo! 106. All right, there is promise. I just had to break it in like crazy. Like, I know you can't really see, but this whole surface is completely like not even curved anymore. I'm not sure how effective this is. Honestly, I feel like 2.5, 2.6 is more than enough, and then you're getting a little more dense piece of wood. In order to use this big of a barrel and still have your bat be really good, it would need to weigh like 40 ounces. I don't know about the fat bat. So now we have the jumbo cup, and this thing could actually go crazy.
Bro, it's just a giant pencil sharpener.
And this has to be illegal for a reason, so let's see. It's also just so lightweight that I don't know if it's gonna hurt really bad. It's gonna bunt. No, this might be crazy. Bro, this feels like I'm hitting with a fungo. Oh, 99, 389. This has crazy potential here. Kind of jammed, felt really good. 99 again. I'm worried if we hit one on the blue, it's just gonna cave in though. Bro, this works. This frickin' works. 103. Oh, we're gonna pop a velo here. Oh, that was, I swear that was kind of end. 103 again. I'm so top spinny, man. 106. Let's backspin one more chance. Woo! All right, this could play.
Oh, no, it said 107 the whole time.
The Jumbo Cup might be our most promising option yet, but let's go to the corked bat. And this thing apparently works. Just ask Sammy Sosa, just ask Chris Sabo. This thing is hollowed out literally down to like right here.
You can't even see the bottom.
Oh, dude, that's halfway down the bat. But can it beat 106 miles an hour and not blow up? Oh, Oh, this is gonna be amazing. Wind's blowing in right there too. 104, 391. Bro, people chirp on corked bats and say they don't work and it does nothing. It does something. I don't know the exact science behind what is actually happening, but when it's done correctly, bro, this is insane. It feels like a drop 5, and it's louder than pretty much anything we've swung. Like, we might get close to 110. Oh, that's over the trees. Yep. Another just monster homer. 421, 104. We got more in the tank. Oh!
Yes. Yes. Oh my God.
107. It looked high. It said, what did it say?
108.
It said 108? Bro, I'm on the cork bat train. 107 again. This is the only one where I objectively kind of feel a difference. Definitely viable. Moving on to the finals. Okay, we'll get one more with the regular wood bat and then the all gunky frickin' pine tar George Brett bat, the Mega Cup, and the corked bat all at good showing. So let's try to get up a little higher here.
Begone. I live within you.
There we go. That's it hard. 105. Bro, these might all be better. I don't know. All right, let's do Jumbo Cup. Ah, that stings, but it's really light. 98. One more. Kind of surprised it hasn't broke.
Heaven's will made mine. Gotcha.
Why does it always frickin' happen?
Volcano kaplow.
It didn't break on the end though. It broke. Well, that's gonna be an automatic DQ. What's the... Oh, there we go. What a lovely little cross section. All right, this thing is disgusting. The George Brett bat. Might as well throw some dog hair on here. Why is this so good? Ah! What? Like, I killed that. 108. There is no chance the pine tar is helping. This bat is just good, I think. This is gonna piss people off, I feel like. One more. How?
Oh my. Oh my gosh. 109.
109. That doesn't make any sense at all. This can't win, dude. All right, corked bat, we need you to represent for all of baseball history. We're hunting for 109. 107. That's kind of jammed. Okay, I hit the best with this for sure. Like the swing ability, you know? 101, 420, Sammy Sosa. Sammy Sosa. Not Sammy Sosa. 106. Do you think they'd let me swing that pine tar bat in men's league? Yeah. That was crushed. 107 only, dude. God!
That was good.
107. Okay, I killed that. Dude, I don't think that's good enough to say it's like statistically better. All right, so in conclusion, the cricket paddle bat was so stupid. I do not recommend. If you're trying to cheat, there's better options. The jumbo barrel, I think, just compromises the density of the bat too much. We have a big flat spot on this thing. It looks sick. I will be using this in men's league. And then it was kind of a toss-up between these two. We know the corked bat is pretty dang effective, but based on the fact that this, God, it's so sticky. This just stupid experiment did as good, if not better, than the corked bat. I think just goes to prove that there's not a really good way to objectively cheat with a wood bat. I promise you, unless some scientist wants to chime in and prove me wrong, there is no reason why a sticky bat would hit the ball harder than like a regular $180 wood bat right here. I think this is just a really good wood bat. It was probably even better before we did this. Is there a way to get this off? Bro, it's like spray adhesive though. But I will give it credit. The George Brett Pine Tar bat somehow with
Okay, that is indeed funny. That the person just...
Okay, so Al hosted like this like Singles Day thingy, and she was like, "Yo, make a Singles Day PowerPoint thingy," and I was like, "Okay, I'm ready." So this is what I submitted. Why I'm single. Why I'm single. Megalodon VT. Reason 1. I want to be. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. I want to be. Oh my god. Whoa. Whoa. Reason 2. I'm too busy for that, bro. I'm a little too busy for that. Okay? A little too busy. A little bit too busy. Reason 3. People think I'm normal, but then I go and get to know them, and then they found out I'm a little too silly, and they don't want to. They didn't know until now, and they feel trapped and don't know what to do. Boo. But that's okay. Being single is really cool, though. I get to do whatever I want with no judgment. Sometimes it's not so cool. But that's okay. If I wasn't single, here's what they would have to deal with. Obsessively loving them to the point of wondering if I'm okay. Me wanting them to quit their job and let me take care of them. I would worry about them 24/7 to the point of almost going crazy because I care so much. I would I think it's for the best. I think it's best for the world if that doesn't happen. Yuppie! If I wasn't single, these are the bad things that would happen. I would never stream because I'd be too busy obsessing over Pookie. My friends would never see me. Well, even less than they already do. Because I would be too busy obsessing over Pookie. I would neglect myself because I'd be too busy obsessing over Pookie. So that's why I'm single. The end. Yippee! And that was the PowerPoint. that I made for L's stream. XDX. So chat, that's why I'm thinking I might be on the route. But not to the point of like blood. I don't like blood. I just want to take care of you, but like a lot. Like obsessively. Like I just want to always make sure you're okay, but like obsessively. And like if I don't know if you're okay, I'll probably have a panic attack. Like if you leave the house to go get us dinner, like if you're leaving the house to go like if you leave the house and all you're doing is going to McDonald's to get me some chicken nuggets because I asked you to go to McDonald's to get me some chicken nuggets, I will track your location the entire way, and if you stop on the highway for too long, I might have a panic attack because I want to make sure that you're okay because I worry about you. So, you know, like, and then as soon as you get home, I might like hug you like really hard and think like tell you like, oh, I thought you were gonna die. I'm so sorry. I got so scared. Please don't leave the house again. And then I'll tell you, you know, like I'll just DoorDash next time, or I'll go get it myself, or I'll go with you so that I know you're okay because I'm worried. Yeah, Mega can have my whole social security number. Chad, did no one ever teach you about cybersecurity?
So I've been watching The Sopranos for the first time as of about a few months ago, and I'm up to season 3 now, and I saw a post on Twitter about Sopranos caricatures. And you know, I've never really talked about caricatures on the channel before, but I do find them fascinating. It's extremely difficult to distort facial features so much, and also like keep the likeness of someone. So it's really fascinating when I see it done well, or even done just like in a weird way, but you can still recognize the person that it's trying to depict. You know, this is the first one on Reddit that I saw. So this was Tony Soprano, of course, and you've got like just a crazy egg-shaped looking face. This is done by J.M. Barreau, Jean-Marc Barreau. I found their Instagram. And they do all kinds of crazy stuff like this. I mean, the David Bowie is really something else. I mean, how do you even think about doing this? Yeah, I'm gonna elongate this feature, the top lip area. That's gonna work. And it does, somehow. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm gonna make him just have the world's largest gobstopper in their mouth. And that works somehow. So I'd recommend looking at their Instagram because they don't just do Sopranos caricatures, they do all kinds of caricatures. So yeah, that one's pretty good. And then you got this one, and it's like, it's so friendly. Look at him. Look at his giant chin. Giant ball-like chin. Ball sack-like chin that is just hanging there. I mean, it's beautiful, really. You got some of these, you got some of these. Sopranos cartoon caricature. I gotta find out if the artist is actually Peter J. Battaglioli. Oh, there you go. There's an Italian name. Battaglioli Studios. Yeah. There we go. So here's more caricatures. Here's on Instagram. Those who want respect to give respect. Hell yeah. This is more of a little bit more of a minimalistic caricature where they don't have as many lines or rendering. So that's that version. Capiche? Hey, it's Paulie. Hey. He's got a bunch of crosses on him. That one looks a little bit less exaggerated. This is just I really, you know, the decisions. It's always like, well, why like the Tic Tac heads? I don't know. This is okay. Hold on. This is crazy. Now this is crazy. This one is like, how do you even come up with the idea of, yeah, I'm gonna just put most of their face in shadow and make it like a box? That is so unusual looking. And this looks like from Mad Magazine. Yep. Mad Magazine, Tony Soprano. Without the word bubbles. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this looks pretty accurate to the show. Mad Magazine is always making good caricatures. Here's Corrado Jr. Soprano, and he's all ears. Oh yeah, there you go. This is more of a classic caricature, where it's just a big head and a small body. The exaggerations aren't too profound. Hey yo, it's me, Christopher. By Patry Balanovsky. Oh my goodness. Oh, here's the art station. Here, oh good, we're getting a bunch of credits. On December 24th, 2004, something extremely rare happened. Two days before, an Arctic cold front swept across southeast Texas. Before night began on Christmas Eve, the entire atmosphere over the area was below freezing, and once it got dark, snow began to fall. In some areas, there were 9 to 12 inches of snow. There were 4 inches on the beaches of Galveston Island, and in Houston, there was just a dusting to about an inch. I have only seen snow a few times in my life, even less so in my native state of Texas. Houston's climate is classified as subtropical. In a place known for its cattle, horses, and blistering heat, where summer temperatures often exceed 100 degrees for an entire month or more, and winters barely ever dip below freezing, snow is understandably rare. Snow on Christmas is unthinkable. But it happened. This is why Texans find snow and ice magical when it does show up, and we are just as naive about its dangers. Human beings used to worry about winter. Most animals have to physically adapt when this inevitable part of the season arrives. When temperatures plummet, plants lose their foliage, and the ground becomes hard and lifeless. Humans are a tropical species, yet have been able to survive and thrive on every continent and in every climate. Modern technologies like indoor climate control, refrigeration, stoves, and the various supply chains that provide us with food year-round ensure that life continues relatively normal, no matter the weather outside. In conjunction, the whole of fall and winter has been romanticized in the cultural consciousness, further encouraged by the holiday season. But I think we've lost something in all these Christmas lights and cozy beverages. We've lost the darkness, the desolation, and fear for the monumental force that is winter. If you search for winter landscape on Google Images, most of the results will show you very colorful and bright scenes. Dozens of winter forests complete with snowy mountains, the setting sun, and lilac skies. Even the night scenes are bathed by moonlight, and their skies are full of stars. These are the idealized images of winter, similar to the Christmas concoctions of Thomas Kinkade. They're pleasant. They're fine for what they are. What they lack is that silence and introspection that comes with a cold winter's night. These are the kind of winter photos that provide this feeling. Quiet, gloomy, and even creepy scenes of trees, dead grass, overcast skies, and untouched white snow. These photos are dark, in a way that is physically tiring to look at, as if you're viewing these scenes through half-closed eyes. I've come to appreciate the lonely atmosphere and authenticity of amateur photography more than ever before. While photos from professionals are well composed, higher quality, and more discernible, they always felt less authentic to to the human experience than these lower resolution, blip of a memory images that dominate showcases of things like liminal spaces and strangely familiar images. I think these photos get at something more true, more reflective of feelings like seasonal depression or thoughtful melancholy. It's as if these crunchy pixels and blurry frames are hiding something from us. Otherwise, zooming in would reveal a secret to you, something hidden from your conscious mind, some long-forgotten memory buried in the snow. The winter landscape as a genre did not exist for most of art history, as the landscape itself, painting nature for nature's own sake, did not exist for most of European art history. Some exceptional winter landscapes exist starting in the 16th century, most famously those of Bruegel. But it's not until you get to artists like Caspar David Friedrich that winter is treated like the main event, the focus of awe and contemplation. Friedrich's paintings are famous for their bleak treatment of winter. Works like these are the mascots of German Romanticism. The vast expanses, ancient ruins, and ghostly monumental architecture point to a world submersed in death and decay. Yet there are glimmers of hope. This man on crutches seems unable to find respite in this wasteland, but does find it in a crucifix that rises out of an evergreen tree, as daybreak is suggested behind the church. Even in the ruins of this monastery, the altar is still preserved, and the monks still attend. In Megalith Grave in winter, a large stone is surrounded by trees, twisting in every direction. A megalith is a stone once used by a prehistoric people for a monument. Johann Christian Dahl loved old monuments like megaliths, menhirs, and burial mounds, and painted them frequently, while also advocating for their preservation. Dahl was a friend of Friedrich, and like Friedrich, his life was filled with a string of personal tragedies, including the deaths of both of his wives in childbirth. Immediately, there is this association with winter and the ancient and dead that is made with this painting. Nature is timeless, and these monuments are mysteries reserved for a time that will never return. March Across the Great Belt is a depiction of the Swedish army crossing the Great Ice Belt between the Danish islands. The work is a demonstration of sheer scale. If the figures in the foreground are anything to go by, each of these rectangles represents hundreds of soldiers. This landscape of miles of pure white may seem alien to us, but there are in fact many places on Earth where this environment exists at an even greater scale. However, you don't even have to look past our solar system to find worlds like Saturn's moon Enceladus, a moon covered entirely in a pure white ice layer that traps a saltwater ocean underneath. Enceladus has a diameter of 310 miles, and its surface temperature is minus 330 degrees Fahrenheit. It even snows, and its snow is hundreds of meters thick. The forest in winter at sunset is not a depiction of an alien landscape, but rather an unfinished painting, which remained unfinished at the time of Theodore Rousseau's death. This is a landscape of the tangled ferocity of nature, so dominating at our small scale that it even blocks out the sun. We can get a clearer image of what it could have looked like by this study. This is a painting of a section of the forest of Fontainebleau, which Rousseau was very fond of, going so far as to lead the effort to make it the first nature reserve in the world. Trees are important in winter landscapes. They add so much character to a scene that would ordinarily be featureless. Within every grown tree is a lifetime of seasons, and within every lateral branch, a grab for light. There are trillions of trees on this earth, and when winter reveals the true skeletons of these organisms, we see there are trillions more branches. Some of these paintings give the illusion of this multiplicity, but few achieve it. Their branches can be sinuous, entangled, and chaotic. They can fractal out as they reach the heavens. They can flow like a blizzard, sprawl out like hair standing on end, or cast shadows over the landscape like vampiric fingers. The trees can be spaced apart orderly, like black columns in a white-tiled palace, or they can look like they belong to a hazy memory. Forest interior, on the other hand, is a particularly evil-looking winter forest. The red in the background could either be a forest fire or a sunset. However, even with all this red and white, there are still patches of emerald green on the bark and even on the snow. Nonetheless, entering here will surely lead you to an inferno. While this painting is an entrance to hell, humans have been trying to scare each other through fiction for forever. Old stories of ghosts and monsters, horror films, horror video games. There is a wide repertoire of things designed to scare us. Humans have gotten really good at it too, and despite all the endless trash that seems to come from the horror genre, there are still some real gems out there. But as scary as these creations can be, unfortunately when it comes to what scares me, what truly keeps me up at night, when it comes down to fiction versus reality, fiction just can't compete. What is the worst way to die? You might cite radiation poisoning or some obscure medieval torture, and those would be right to put high on the list. But a far more likely, and still considerably unpleasant way to die, is drowning. There's something eerie about drowning. People who drown often do so alone. People who know how to swim may be overconfident in their abilities, and are more likely to swim alone or beyond their physical capabilities. Unsupervised children especially are at a great risk, and it doesn't even take a large amount of water to drown. When people who have drowned are pulled out from the water, there's no purposeful signs of maliciousness, even though bodies damaged by passing debris can cause wounds that seem intentional. Drowning is just a simple result of our biology subjected to environments we weren't built for. Corpses decompose far differently in water than in air. The most well-known change is the wrinkling of skin, but there's also things like discoloration and adipocery wax buildup. Gases are released during decomposition, which causes bodies to bloat and rise to the surface. The longer a body is not recovered, the more distorted it will become. And while that's all quite unpleasant, I think the greatest factor to drowning's perceived eeriness is the tragedy of it all. There's usually not someone or something to blame directly for the death. It's more often than not accidental. All it takes is one mishap, one small lapse in judgment, for fatal results. It's likely you've tried to hold your breath underwater just to see how long you could last. First you feel calm and collected. You might be able to do this for a few minutes maybe. You use this opportunity to dive deeper into the water. But sooner rather than later you start to lose energy. And then the pain starts. That awful, squeezing pain. You feel it in your chest, in your throat. You start to feel dizzy. Your brain starts screaming at you that you need to ascend, and ascend quickly. Maybe you've gone down a bit too far, and you look above and realize that you might be in trouble. You start swimming. You let the last of your air out, and then the panic sets in. It seems you can't ascend fast enough. You're literally in too deep. This is it. But if you're listening to this video right now, it means you made it. That experience is frightening, yes, but if you're smart, you never do it in places where there's serious danger. You'll either do it around people, in a public pool, or in a relatively shallow body of water. But in places where someone is really in too deep, In scenarios where someone is truly trapped, I can imagine that the panic you feel while voluntarily holding your breath for a bit too long isn't even 1% of the terror one feels when they are truly trapped and drowning. In 2013, a Nigerian tugboat sunk with 12 seamen on board. After it had sunk, the vessel's cook, Harrison Okene, managed to find an air pocket in the bow of the ship, and through some ingenuity and luck, managed to survive for 3 days in a cold, dark room, sustaining himself with a single can of Coke, rapidly running out of air, and with the constant threat of the room suddenly filling with water. But eventually, he was miraculously rescued by divers when he reached out for them from his airtight room. While the story itself is remarkable, I cannot overstate how horrific that experience must have been. Throughout this man's ordeal, I can only imagine the type of mental anguish he must have felt. Not only was it likely he was going to die either from hypothermia, suffocation, or drowning, he got the rare opportunity to think about dying in those wonderful ways for 60 grueling hours. It's no wonder he still has nightmares and vowed never to return to the sea. This is a rare incidence of survival, but it makes you wonder about if there are any other cases like this where people got trapped in an air pocket, but they didn't get rescued. But how would we be able to know? I mean, we can guess with probabilities and things like that, but how can we truly know about any scenarios like this if we never eventually rescue them and hear their story?
Not bad. Shame
Right?
no one's here to film it. I've got better tricks up my sleeve.
When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, they destroyed or damaged 19 ships. One of those ships was the USS West Virginia, which was struck by torpedoes 7 times and sunk. As the ship began to list, prompt damage control efforts initiated by Lieutenant John S. Harper saved it from capsizing. This was done by closing all the hatch compartments and counterflooding the starboard side of the ship. These actions undoubtedly saved hundreds of lives. The USS West Virginia burned for 30 hours. Then when the fires were extinguished on December 8th and things quieted down, a noise could be heard. There was a faint banging noise that among the chaos could have easily been mistaken for a piece of loose rigging slapping against the hull. It soon dawned on shipmates near the scene that men were trapped 40 feet down in a closed airtight storeroom in the bow of the ship. Unfortunately, any rescue efforts were near impossible. Cutting a hole would rapidly flood the room, and using a torch would ignite trapped gases, causing an explosion. These sailors, who were eventually revealed to be Ronald Endicott, Clifford Olds, and Louis Costin, were truly trapped. When the WV was eventually salvaged 6 months later by pumping out enough water for it to partially float, the 3 bodies were found in the small compartment. However, this scene was unlike most. Flashlight batteries and empty ration cans littered the floor, but on the wall was the most haunting discovery. A calendar covered in red X's, starting from December 7th and ending on December 23rd. These 3 men had sat trapped underwater in the bow of the ship, slowly dying for 16 days. The Navy told the parents of the men that they had died on December 7th, but after the discovery, only some of the family members ever found out. The information was purposefully withheld by some relatives to spare them the grief. As of this video, all their headstones say they died December 7th. It's hard to imagine the anguish those men must have felt for that length of time. It was also difficult for the men on guard duty to hear the banging noise day after day, knowing nothing could be done. But the level of suffering those men must have experienced is quite unthinkable. Not only
You pulled off a sleek move.
I knew you could do it.
were they truly trapped, like Okene, once the thought crossed their minds that they might not be rescued, they must have experienced psychological torture on a level I wouldn't wish on my worst enemies. Not only were they going to die, they apparently got to think about dying in that small, dark hole underwater for more than 2 weeks. What is the worst way to die? Well, I would certainly put that high on the list. It's stories like this that make you wonder why thalassophobia isn't more common. Thalassophobia is an intense and persistent fear of the sea. This can include the fear of deep bodies of water, the vastness of the sea creatures, and distance from land. This is different from aquaphobia, which is a fear of water itself. Drowning, getting stranded, or getting trapped underwater in the vast, hostile environment of the sea are some of the many good reasons to fear it. And while yes, it wasn't the sea itself that killed those 3 men, the sea certainly aided in their entrapment. I don't believe I have thalassophobia. While on occasion I do fear being stranded in the middle of the ocean, or being attacked by a monstrous sea creature while swimming, or somehow being sucked down to the bottom of the sea floor, these feelings are neither intense nor persistent. Less intense when I'm on land, and more so when I'm swimming in the ocean, understandably. If you got me thinking about it for a while, I might get pretty anxious. But my rational thinking is simply too overpowering for me to truly start to panic over those things. I will likely never work on a battleship. I doubt I'm going to pursue marine biology and get the opportunity to be in a submersible, and the likelihood of getting swallowed by an enormous sea creature is, well, slim to say the least. While the ocean is just a few hours from where I live, when I swam in it, my thoughts of danger are usually overpowered by the fact that, hey, playing in relatively shallow water is fun, but that fear is still there. It lingers in the back of my ape brain, occasionally revealing itself anytime I see a particularly eerie deep-water photo. Now don't get me wrong, if you tried to put me in one of those submarines with the big glass domes that descend into the ocean a mile or two, you'd better believe you'd get a fight from me. But is that because I fear the ocean, or more because I fear being crammed into a tiny vessel and descending into complete darkness where I face the possibility of the vessel and subsequently my own body being crushed like a soda can? My relationship with the ocean in general is equal parts fascination and fear. Fear of the vast emptiness, the otherworldly environment, and fascination with those same things. I haven't had any traumatic experiences with the ocean in the past, so I always wondered precisely what might have given me such a fear, even if it's mild. I will probably never know exactly what it was that gave me this sense of anxiety, but I can point to a few things. I've always had a childlike fascination of the ocean ever since I was, well, a child. I owe a lot of my knowledge and fear about the ocean to PBS documentaries. There was something about exploring those deep, isolated areas with strange, futuristic technology and completely alien creatures that really roped me into whatever was happening, which was quite a feat, considering I was a very distracted child and most of the documentaries consisted of darkness. There's something different about darkness in the deep ocean. Not all darkness is created equal. The darkness of a cave is different from the darkness of a forest at night, and the darkness of the vast empty universe is different from the darkness of the vast empty ocean. Sure, it's mostly context dependent, but the qualities are still almost mystical. When you stare at the darkness of the deep ocean, even if it's been compressed by several digital conversions, you can still get that "this is dangerous" feeling. You might be staring at miles and miles of water and sand, or you might be staring at an utterly foreign predator. Both of these things hidden from view by the limitations of the camera and the limitations of your own eyes. I've had experiences of being in deep water before. In one such instance, I went to an artificial pool filled with more natural elements, like some small schools of fish and rocks on the floor. The pool was huge, by the way, far larger than any pool you could find in suburbia or the YMCA. At some point, I departed from the group and swam elsewhere. I must have swam around 70 to 80 feet away because when I looked back, I don't know if it was my warped sense of reality in my youth or what, but I distinctly remember the group I momentarily swam away from looking tiny, somehow tinier than if I was on land, and then I looked down. I was overcome with a great chilling sensation. Below me was what must have been 30 feet of water, and at the bottom, a rocky, uneven floor. Before this, I had never been in water this clear and deep, so maybe that was the reason for the shock, but somehow this felt more intense than it should have been. The deepest I had swam in regular pools was 14 feet, and I could still descend to the bottom, touch the chalky, artificial floor with my hands, and ascend before feeling too uncomfortable. The thought must have crossed my mind that if I attempted that in this depth, I might not come back up in time. A similar occasion occurred in an island somewhere off the coast of Mexico some years later. In the same scenario, I departed from the group and found myself someplace far away. This time nothing was artificial. There were light waves and an intense sun basking down on my neck and back. Once I was alone, I looked down, once again, and a similar chill went up my spine. This time I couldn't see the floor, at least not clearly. It might have been some dense seaweed that created the illusion, and I doubt it dropped off that deep in still relatively shallow waters, but I distinctly remember looking down and seeing a vast darkness. There was a subtle gradation from the lip of the drop-off to the darkness, but not very much. It really was a stare into the abyss and the abyss stares into you situation, and that same thought occurred to me. What's down there is unknown. The depth is unknown. The creatures are unknown. If I try what I usually try in regular pools, I may not come back up. On top of PBS documentaries about the deep ocean, some of my fear may also be attributed to another, less physical experience. While searching through the enigma that is my mind, I suddenly remembered a part of the reason I might perhaps appreciate the atmosphere and terror of the deep. Where was this early experience from? That's right, from LEGO again. Back in 2010, LEGO launched a short-lived Atlantis theme. Being a bored, internet-savvy 9-year-old, I often peruse their website, not to buy anything, I would if I could, but to look at all the new sets, videos, and short video games. One such piece of media was an animated short film and interactive video game combination, and on the second section of the video game, once you got past the crabs, was this. Yep, that's right. This stupid, maybe 2-minute long section that you could barely call a game, where all you do is click on items, contributed at least a small part to my fear of the deep ocean. I will say that the section is still surprisingly atmospheric. All you hear is the distant whining of whales. And to my little child mind, some things seem scarier than they actually were. Oh god, this is the headpiece to the suits that the other people use. Why is it abandoned here? Is it because they died? Oh my god, they died. It's the LEGO equivalent of finding abandoned cave divers equipment. You just know something bad happened here. Despite how basic it is, this small section encapsulates at least some of the layered atmospheric ghostliness of the ocean. The ocean is a different planet, and an inversion in many ways of being on land. On land, we are generally obsessed with ascending, climbing mountains, constructing taller and taller buildings, getting so high that we ended up leaving our atmosphere. But in the sea, we're primarily concerned with descending. If Mount Everest is at the top of the world at 29,000 feet, then the Mariana Trench is at the bottom of it at 36,000. Although the tallest mountain in the world from base to height is not really Mount Everest, but Mauna Kea at 33,000 feet in Hawaii, if you count its underwater base. The ocean is home to all kinds of geological formations that dwarf even the most extreme on land. It's easy to forget just how vast, deep, and empty the ocean is. Most people know that the ocean covers 70% of the world's surface and makes up 97% of the world's water. That's something you learn in elementary school. But it's hard to truly understand and visualize that. On land, we have landmarks, canyons, mountains, things that give us something to compare to. We also spend most of our lives on land, and thus have more experience. If you drive for 7 hours straight, you may be able to cover around 500 miles. Even in sparse areas, you'll still see fields, trees, and rock formations. Things that as you pass can give you a sense of scale. But the ocean is just one enormous carpet of blue. Repetitive patterns of waves that seems endless. If you've ever traveled on the ocean for a while, on a cruise ship or some other vessel, you can look out and get some idea of the sea, but really you're only looking at a small part. The sea quickly disappears from the curve of the earth, and without any landmarks, it's hard to tell how far you've been. The pattern of the waves doesn't change. The horizon never wavers. It's almost like you never moved at all. As for depth, the ocean has an average depth of 2.3 miles. Just think about that for a second. We're talking about 4 Burj Khalifas stacked on top of each other, and we still have some room to spare. And that's just average. There are depths in the ocean that haven't been touched by sunlight for millions upon millions of years. Son, when you're talking about deep, you can't get much deeper than that. When I was a kid, I would try and imagine if all of a sudden the oceans were drained instantly, of course with all the fish removed as well. I imagined I would traverse this vast desert and find all kinds of things. Giant skeletons, old boats, treasures I would never have been able to discover otherwise. But, at least in the area around where I live, it would likely be much more boring. Sure, there would be places like dried out reefs and ravines, but those would likely be hundreds of miles away, and a vast majority of it would just be miles and miles of sand and worthless litter. There's still that fantasy though. There's still that fantasy of exploring a vast space, without the barriers of natural growth or the barriers of human borders and restrictions. To climb on sunken vessels now free in the open air, to explore places that haven't been viewed by human eyes ever, without the looming threat of a watery death. While it's fun to entertain these physical impossibilities, the ocean is still quite fascinating in its otherworldly features. The less restrictive gravity of being underwater allows for the most bizarre creatures imaginable, especially when you get deep enough where light becomes scarce. Siphonophores are a favorite of mine, long chains of colonial organisms that work together to form a kind of organic ship. There are also creatures who use bioluminescence not as a way to make themselves known, but as a way to erase their silhouettes by matching their own light with the light above. Then there's this thing which I just love for some reason. There's 500-year-old Greenland sharks that can live in depths over 7,000 feet and look like death itself. Then there's Magnappina squids, which, I mean, just look at it. Also, sperm whale noises can potentially vibrate human beings to death. Again, how more people do not have thalassophobia, I do not know. There's all kinds of things to learn about the ocean. Marine biology, ocean topography, shipwrecks. It really is the final frontier on Earth, as they say. And there's a whole bunch of people who can teach you about it. There's a lot of great videos on YouTube about the ocean to really get invested into. From National Geographic documentaries to David Attenborough. But unfortunately, as with anything intriguing, there is also lots of clickbait surrounding the deep ocean. And with clickbait comes endless bullshit. There's this one pretty high production channel whose thumbnails are kind of off, but at least they sort of eventually show something similar to what's in the thumbnail. But then you have stuff like this. This statue is never seen in this video. There isn't even a mention of an underwater statue, period.
That certainly suggests that something crazy was going on. As it appears, there's a man being pulled out of a sunken ship.
Okay, that is a plane, and this is a dummy. Come on, man.
And it seems as if the man here is mummified. And is there any chance that the guy being rescued is still alive?
Is he still alive? Gee, I don't know. Are mummies typically alive? This video is probably my favorite thing I've discovered in my research. While yes, the video is filled with blatantly false information, my favorite part of it is just the utter disaster that is the editing. I swear to God they use every single transition effect they could possibly have in their editing program. Why do they put a graphic of the Titanic in front of another image of the Titanic? Just choose one. Whatever it is, if there's a red circle and a creature that looks like it's straight out of a cartoon, it's probably clickbait. It's hard to overstate just how ill-equipped our bodies are for the ocean, especially the deep ocean. Your sense of direction is distorted. The pressures are unlike anything on land, and of course, breathable air is non-existent. The environment is simply too hostile for our biology. Underwater cave diving provides us plenty of examples of the disorienting terrors of the deep. Underwater cave diving might be one of the most horrible things ever invented by man. You know, diving in open water I find pretty frightening itself, but at least it provides you with plenty of escape routes. With underwater cave diving, you get to take all the claustrophobia, disorientation, darkness, and physical exhaustion of exploring regular caves, but then just add water. Because of this, cave divers must follow strict safety protocols. There's very little room for error and intense training is required. An average of 10 cave divers out of a few thousand die every year, compared to the 1 in 15,000 recreational divers that die a year. It's so dangerous that you can have people die, and then when people try to retrieve the body, they also die. It's one of the most dangerous activities out there. but it also quite clearly shows just how unfit we are as a species to traverse deep bodies of water. The ghostliness of the ocean I ascribe to its murkiness and effects of decay. Water tends to cloud your vision, produce this misty haze over anything you encounter under it. When things are left in the water either on purpose or by tragedy, water greatly affects its decay. Things lose their color, metal rusts, and it always seems like the water produces growth, like an alien fungus feeding on whatever is left behind. Shipwrecks are ghost ships, literal shells of their former selves. And if the ship had enough people on board and sunk in a hard-to-get-to location or position, the answer to, are there still bodies in there, is usually yes. Many people describe this additional fear of man-made underwater objects as submechanophobia, which sounds like a fake word, but for the reasons I just mentioned and more, I can totally understand this fear. Even a chain going down into the water and slowly fading from view as it descends can send chills up the back and produce all kinds of images in the mind. There's the rational reason that when diving around large man-made objects, there's always a risk of getting trapped or crushed. But there's also that sense of eeriness. Who did this object belong to? What was the story of how this thing got lost down here? Was it simply lost by accident, or was it involved in something much more deadly? Shipwrecks and other man-made objects lost underwater are ghostly. On a surface level, they represent the forgotten, the dead, the decaying, a signal of danger. But on another level, underwater technology no longer serving its purpose signifies humanity's failure to conquer the sea. We can't swim to the depths, no matter how hard we try, and even if we could, we would be crushed gradually by the pressure. It's an inaccessible world, recently made accessible by advanced and even still delicate.
Trouble again.
Yay! Okay, well, that means that I can just chill out.
Hey, the wind's picking up. I'm here. bring you the latest bouquet. Hold on. Let me... Wow. Thank you, Coco.
Okay, that's cute.
Hold on. Let me get out whatever Kiramaru gobbled.
On these. On these. On these. On ours. Ditto. On these. Screw everything else. With these. All right.